Oh, too old to sit like this. Ephesians 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. This is Paul speaking. For this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. That it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline. Bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Responsibility of the father. Bondservants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart as you would Christ, not by way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with good will as the Lord and not to man, knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is bondservant or is free, meaning slave. It can do that different ways. Some people say, well, that meant slave. Some people were indentured, that kind of thing. We read that today, and most people are extremely offended by that. Telling, oh my gosh, this it's slavery, condoning slavery and all that. That's what was going on at the time. So let's read that again. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart. Okay? We hear that. We're like, oh my God, it's a slave. And how's he got to be good to his master and all this, But if you notice what they're saying is this might be a, let's just say, assume this is a bad situation. This person's a slave. How could this be? How could this be, anything good? But what God's telling him to do, be the best at it. Be from the heart. In other words, he's saying, have this attitude. You may be in this situation, but have this attitude. What's the example here? Fear and trembling with a sincere heart as you would Christ. It says here, obey your earthly master as you would Christ. Not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants or slaves of Christ. As a slave of Christ, do it the same way. Doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will, as though you're doing it to the Lord and not to man. He's telling his slave here, this slave, treat your master as you would treat Christ. Go with the same attitude, the sincerity from the heart. Not as a people pleaser, not as a, kiss butt, that kind of thing. But, do your job, do it well, and this kind of thing. But as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will, talking about attitude, as if you were given, as if to the Lord and not to just some man. Why would he tell you that? Knowing that whatever good anyone does, good attitude, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is a slave or is free. Okay, now it'll be another little stipulation in there, but think about this. He's condoning slavery and this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, maybe so. I don't see it that way, but it's also telling the slave, here's the attitude you have. I want you to carry this attitude as though you're serving Christ, slave. Why would he want that? Why would he want you to have that attitude? Says next. Says this following statement here. Masters, slave owners, do the same to them. And stop your threatening, knowing that he who is both their master and yours. In other words, he says, slave owner, do the same to them and stop your threatening, knowing that God, who is both their master and yours, is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with him. And then it goes into the whole armor of God thing after that. But I just thought that's an interesting one there. As we look at it from that, oh my God, slave. Oh, you think of all the terrible thoughts of slavery, which is a terrible thing and all that. And culturally, they have some excuse for it, whatever the case is. But what does God ask him? He's telling the slave, you treat him with the same attitude as though you're treating Christ, as though you're serving Christ. a son of the master, you treat him realizing that his master is me. That's pretty interesting. That's a pretty, his master's the Lord, your master as well. You might want to think of that next time you're threatening the slave kind of thing. You can see where this would be. And chances are, whoever he's speaking to here in Ephesians, Paul, there's probably master and bondservant, probably a master and slave in the arena here that he's speaking to. Anyhow. Love you. God bless.